decisive thing. So let's start just running through who you think's going to win. Saul, who do you think's going to win this presidential election?
I think Obama's going to win, but I'm amazed at how close it's turning out. It's going to be exciting tomorrow.
What about you, Kirk? What do you think?
I think Obama's going to win. I'm just not as confident as I was last election. Last election, one of the things that I noticed was that it was surprising how many people were promoting Obama with lawn signs and bumper stickers and that kind of stuff. And this time I see a lot more Romney supporters, just in people who are like trying to join his campaign team, and a lot of people who are taking up issues that really are irrelevant to the president's work that he's done. Seems like people want Romney to win just so Obama could lose, not because that Romney's a better candidate, but just because they don't want to see Obama win. So I'm worried about how that sentiment is actually going to be, replicated throughout the entire nation.
What about you, Katie? What do your bones tell you? Who do you think is going to win?
Well, I'm in a state of shock because as of last election, we were heavily red, and partly because we have this weird group called the Free Staters that are coming in, but it seems like the Democrats are solidly in the lead in the governor's race, which is a very good sign, and that means that, and I was out canvassing yesterday, and 2 out of 27 were for Romney, and everybody else was Obama, and there were like 10 people in houses saying yeah, and all 5 of us are voting, and it was very enthusiastic. I'm also in the most liberal town in New Hampshire, this side of Dartmouth, so I'm not sure.
And nationwide, what's your feeling about Romney and Obama?
Who?
Romney and Obama, who do you think is going to win?
Oh, I think it's going to be Obama in New Hampshire, but I think it's going to be very, very close. We're highly motivated, though, because the Democrats are particularly highly motivated because in 2000, 3,600 votes stood between Bush and Gore, and if New Hampshire's electoral votes had gone for Gore in 2000, Florida would never have mattered. So,
now, Romney's got a house in New Hampshire. Doesn't that count for something?
Not much. He's a summer boy. He's from away. And we don't really like the folks from Massachusetts all the time anyway, so that's the other issue. He's sort of a Massachusetts guy.
What about Jody? I think
your version of that. But I won't.
What do you reckon? Who do you think's going to win?
Well, I think I'm in the minority because I actually think Romney's going to win. I think it's going to be a much bigger turnout on election day than people may be anticipating. I think that you're seeing people who are not as outspoken as maybe some Democrats are, but they're just quietly going about their business, and I think you're going to see them come out really heavily on election day, and I think this is going to go the other way.
Yeah, what we call in Britain, we call them shy Tories, people who don't like to say they're going to vote for the right, but then they go out and do it.
I think a lot of people are just really sick of the back and forth and the bickering and the fights that come up when you disagree with someone. I think there has been so much animosity in the last year or so with politics that people who don't want to fight just don't say anything, and they make their vote with their feet.
And what do you think, Fred, in Pennsylvania?
Well, first of all, just so your people in Britain understand, we have not just the popular vote nationwide doesn't elect the president. We have this crazy electoral college, and each state has a certain number of votes. So what I see is what we call the red states, which are the states that will vote Republican, I think will have tremendously high numbers of votes for Romney. But the problem is the states that will vote for Obama and give him the victories, they may not be all by a lot in numbers, but the Electoral College, as it's called, I think will be tremendous in the Obama favor. And I see him getting 303 compared to 235 for Romney. I just don't see any way for the map to work in Romney's favor right now. You can just tell about like places he's going, such as Ohio, even though the polls have him down 5-6 points, and then he tries in a couple other states like Pennsylvania that he was trying to just steal at the last minute, which he's still down anywhere from 2 to 7 points depending on what you do. But I think it's going to be a pretty big electoral vote for the president, but the popular vote might be pretty close.
But even if you say that President Obama's going to get 303, I mean, he got 365 last time, so...
Well, with the exception of Richard Nixon in his second term and Ronald Reagan in his second term, usually second-term re-elections are not as good as your first time. So it's just the way I see the map going, just the way I see, just in the political science, not in opinions. I'm sure
Kirk was saying that, you know, he detects the sort of people just, you know, wanting to go for a change, or is it more profound than that? Are people really disappointed by what they've got over the last 4 years? What does that think?
It depends where you are on the fence. I mean, there's some people who will say, look, the Republicans stopped Obama from doing things that he wanted to do, and it's been crazy. We have to just let the president keep doing it. On the flip side, there's other people who say, absolutely not. We should have done things earlier differently, so therefore let's go for a change. And yeah. I see it more like 60-40 that people want things to continue and get better.
Jody, what do you...
I have to disagree a little bit, because Obama had a super majority for the first 2 years of his presidency. If he really wanted to get things done, he had to convince his own party. It wasn't the Republicans that were stopping him for the first 2 years. It was his own party that was not agreeing with what he wanted to do.
But I mean, Mitch McConnell said day one that the task of the next 4 years was to stop Obama being re-elected. That doesn't sound like a operation.
But again, it wasn't the Republicans stopping him. They couldn't stop him if they tried. Obama had a super majority. The Democrats had the House, the Democrats had the Senate, and the Democrats had the presidency for the first 2 years.
Right. But for somebody who's his first time in the White House, I mean, how much can anybody expect for you to accomplish with the first 2 years in a position? I mean, in any government position, it takes some time to actually get your bearings, to understand exactly how the politics of Washington operates, especially when you come in on the premise of change. Second of all, the things that he did do...
But he also admitted just not even a month ago that you can't change Washington from the inside.
Right, but let me just finish, though. Second of all, the things that he did accomplish in the first 2 years were absolutely groundbreaking. As far as the breaking the glass ceiling for women, you know, starting to work on a bailout plan when our country was literally sliding into a depression. I mean, the things that he actually dealt with were the things that he had to actually work on. Okay, so if we're trying to find something to complain about, we're going to be able to find something to complain about. The reality is the opposition said from day one, starting with Rush Limbaugh, I want this guy to fail. And it essentially saying, I want our country to fail because I don't like this person, which set us up for an oppositional term in his first time of office from day one. So we're going to always
every president from day one goes into that, though.
Yeah, Saul, what do you think, Saul?
Yeah, well, I mean, just listening to this, it's so typical of the conversation going on here. I think people in the middle, and the reason this is so close is because people in the middle are tired of these polar arguments. The economy is bad here. I mean, here in Rhode Island, we have the second highest unemployment rate. People want real change, and they don't want these polar arguments. They're tuning it out, and they'll be so happy when this election is over and we can move on, and they don't really see a big difference between either of these. You know, a lot of people here, me included, say a pox on both of their houses. I mean, we've got serious work to do, and all we seem to be able to do is argue with each other.
So you're not going to vote then, Saul?
No, I'm gonna vote because it's our responsibility to vote. But I'm going to hold my nose when I vote. You know, neither of these candidates really have a clear prescription for how we're going to turn this economy around, and that's what we need.
We've also got joining us now from Alaska. I think Jill Davis joining in our Google Hangout. Welcome to you, Jill. What do you make of this election so far?
Either of these, a lot of people.
Well, I think we're going to we'll sort of thing. Jill, are you hearing us?
I think Jill might be frozen.
Oh, she's frozen. Well, it's in Alaska.
It's cold up there.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the interesting thing that Americans always say, as we do in Britain, that having a democracy, having regular elections is something to celebrate. Yet, to be frank, everyone seems pretty glum about this election campaign. Has no one enjoyed it at all?
I've had a blast. But I think it depends where you are. I think, Rhode Island is terribly depressed. New Hampshire's economy is coming back. I work in the technology and social media sector, which, we can't find enough talented people to fill the jobs that we've got open. So, I mean, there's certain parts of the country, like Silicon Valley and certain parts of Massachusetts, that just have a very, very different view of this whole thing. And we see the country being on the right track, and we're excited, and we're thrilled by the ground game, and I love going out canvassing, and that's just a local phenomenon. It's definitely not the country. I think it's definitely New Hampshire's passion for politics. I keep saying, New Hampshire, it's like football is to Liverpool. We talk about it all the time, and we love it.
Well, and you have to realize Iowa, being one of the first in the nation on the caucuses, we have politics longer than anybody else.
Probably a week longer than us.
Let's see if we can get Alaska yet. Are you hearing us in Alaska? Welcome to you, Jill. We still haven't got any sound from you, I'm afraid. Hey, Jill. No, well, we're doing our best. This is the first for me. I think our technical guys will be able to tell you, Jill, what the problem is. Yeah.
Technology.
Yeah, well, it is technology. Well, what about the very basic question, which is the Ronald Reagan question, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? We're hearing from New Hampshire that people felt in New Hampshire, I suppose, better off with the economic recovery underway. What about your parts of the country?
Well, in Iowa, I mean, we always get things late, and Iowa was very fortunate. I mean, our unemployment, I don't think, topped 5.3% at our highest point. But we're relatively insulated from that. But like I said, politics starts in Iowa before it starts anywhere else. So even up to 6 months to a year before the caucuses, we have politicians in from all over the country all the time, and it's almost like politics is nonstop. And people are really going to be thrilled when this election's over, just because they're going to be able to watch TV again. Without, I mean, because seriously, you have all of your commercial breaks are just filled with back-to-back political ads, and it's one party, then the other party, and just back and forth and back and forth. And it seems like politics has gotten more polarized. When I started, when I was 18, was my very first election, and I campaigned for Dukakis. And then, then I voted for Clinton, and then I voted for Perot, and then and then I don't follow a party. I vote with who fits my values. And I think that you're finding that a lot more, especially across the heartland, is people are really voting values and not voting party. And I think that that's kind of one of those things that needs to happen is people kind of need to get their party out of their politics.
Okay, well, we've been joined by Jonathan Greening from Wyoming. Jonathan, can you hear us?
I can. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Good evening. Well, thank you all for your films that you contributed. We're just seeing yours, Jonathan, on the main channel. Many of the people we're talking to, not all, are from swing states. We're hearing from Rhode Island. It's very blue, and it's therefore a bit boring in the election. Wyoming's a bit, is it a bit boring there as well, Jonathan? Jonathan, you hearing me?
Yes, I'm sorry, there was some crosstalk.
Yeah. I'm just saying, because it's not a swing state, is it therefore boring to be in a national election in Wyoming?
Well, no, not boring, although for a different reason. You were going through with the other folks asking what their predictions are, and I suspect that Obama will eke out a victory here. For me, what's interesting and somewhat troubling, perhaps, is I don't know how many people in ideological zones such as Wyoming that is so conservative. I don't know how much legitimacy that a lot of my compatriots are going to grant to a second Obama term. They've been hard-pressed to accept him as a legitimate president the first time around.
Oh, come on. Are we back to birther junk? It's crazy.
No, not necessarily birther junk, just you know, you've seen it around the blogs and whatnot, just this general skepticism that all the polls are skewed, that the mainstream media is, you know, it is conspiracy minded, but it's a different strain than the birtherism. It's just that you know, there's too many people that vote fraud, that sort of thing.
I mean, Jonathan, people were talking before you joined us about how this is a polarized election. One of the things from an outside point of view that you notice is that it's a racially polarized election, isn't it? That minorities tend to favor Obama, and the white section of the community is heavily in favor of the Republicans.
Yeah, that certainly has been the case with polling. It's disappointing, I think, for many of us that it is such a widely cut thing there in terms of how predictive someone's race is in terms of who it is that they're supporting.
What do you think, Fred? Do you think the country is polarized in that way?
As I said a little bit earlier, I think the red states are very much against Obama, and they will turn out. So places like Wyoming, Oklahoma, you're going to have, I don't know, 90% for Romney, 10% for Obama. So there's a polarization and a bit of racism involved in the South.
You say that like the Midwest is backwards, but if you look at it, I mean, the last 5 years, or the last 5 elections, Iowa went blue.
Well, I wasn't talking about those guys. I wasn't talking about Iowa. I'm talking about the states that are very far red. They're staying very far red, and it depends where people want to live. And they want to live, some people, I don't care what you are, usually will tend to live with people who think like you. So what you get is a concentration in small areas.
Oh, interesting. I've been joined tonight by Fred from Pennsylvania, Jody from Iowa, Jonathan from Wyoming, Katie from New Hampshire, Kirk from Michigan, and Saul from Rhode Island. We tried to get through to Alaska, but we're having a few problems. I mean, one thing's very clear. Is that old certainty of the expectation as to who you think is going to win the election is, of course, very different from who you support. But, one of the things we've heard, and let's go back now to our conversation, is just this worry that seems to be there across the board that the country is getting more divided, more polarized, Jody. I mean, is that a worry you share?
It certainly does feel like the country is getting more polarized. Like I said earlier, a lot of people just don't talk politics just because they don't want the argument. You see it a lot on media like Facebook and Twitter. People are unfriending and not following because the disagreements that they're having with their friends over politics is tearing friendships apart. And I'm afraid that this is just going to continue.
Are you finding that, Saul? That
Yeah. I think. Well, I mean, it's clearly a polarized election conversation. We seem to be talking past each other. We need pragmatic solutions. I mean, we need to mobilize the center. I mean, you see the same pattern we see in every election, where to win the primary, Romney had to move further to the right, and then to try to win the general, he moves closer to the center. I mean, we see this pattern over and over again. When what we really need are to lead from the center, right? So that we can have practical solutions, and compromises that can improve our education system, can improve our energy solutions, and instead what we get are polarized debates from the fringes, and it's not moving the country forward. And I think people are getting more and more frustrated with this.
Jonathan, I've been listening in the last few weeks of this general election campaign, and both Mitt Romney and Barack Obama have been saying we're the ones who can unite the country. Do you think either of them really can?
No,
No.
I think things have gotten, the schism is too wide. And I'll admit that I am a Democrat in Wyoming, and there's a friend of mine has a bumper sticker on the back of her pickup that says, "Welcome to Wyoming, where we hunt Democrats with dogs for sport." And when you have that sort of sentiment going on, it could be difficult to bring things back into perspective and have sane, level-headed conversations where people end up disagreeing.
One of the major problems here is that in the primary elections in this country, some states, they show up with maybe 10% of either Democratic or the Republican voters, who then nominate wackos on one side or the other to run. And so what happens is sometimes they slip by, and you're going to get the fringes be able to have a little bit of control of the government. And that's been the big problem. If everybody showed up for the primary election like they did for the general election, this country would be governed from the center, and it would be governed a heck of a lot better.
Katie, you have those primaries. You get all these wackos coming into town.
Because they know they can win with 10% of the vote showing up. There was a woman in the state of Delaware. She was alleged to be a witch, and she won the Republican primary for United States Senate over, I think, a 2 or 3 term United States senator. It's crazy.
Do you agree with that, Kirk?
I just think that, we do have polarization. Just the comment that Jonathan passed about, Democrats being hunted by dogs, and I mean, there's no secret that a large majority of Democrats are, people who are of ethnic background. And if you just change one word in that statement, it could be a very racially charged statement. And I think that this race has kind of uncovered some of the racial tensions throughout our country. And it's really sad that we are here today and having this kind of discussion, because underlying all of this, there is a very deep racial undertone to what's happening. And in a changing world, it was very encouraging the last election to see that everybody came together to vote for a candidate that was much different than what we usually have representing our country. And now it seems like we've almost gone backwards. I honestly don't trust the Republican Party. Just hearing the fact that Mitt Romney's son actually owns the company that produces the voting.
Come on to that in a moment. We're going to carry on with our Google Hangout here, Martin. But as you can see, it's pretty sober mood, really, as certainly our 5 or 6 contributors here head to the polls. I have to say, on a straw poll, the reckoning is that on balance, probably Obama's going to win, but it is close, and who knows? Back to you, Martin. We'll carry on with our conversation. Let's try and go to Alaska again. Jill.
Come on, Jill. We know you can do it.
We want to hear from Jill. Yeah.
Hey.
Is that you, Jill?
Hi.
Oh, great. We can hear from you. Hey, fantastic. So what do you think about this election? Alaska's still pretty too far. Yeah, well, we'll try and get it. Let's go to New Hampshire and Katie there. You were nodding quite a lot when you were listening.
Well, I think one of the big divides that we're not talking about is the age gap. Last time we had so many students out supporting Obama, and this time I don't get the same sense. I mean, I get the sense that they're engaged, but I also see that there's a lot of the older folks are voting for Romney because that's the known quantity. That's not the new thing. That's not, a guy who looks. It's not. See, to me, it's not just the racism divide, but this generational divide, and the generational divide is a tough one because in New Hampshire we have a whole generation of union workers and mill workers who made paper and products out of wood, and all of those jobs are gone. And now the state's filling up with people from the southern tier, from Massachusetts and the high-tech area, and far more technology-oriented, educated workers. And that's what's also shifting the nature of the conversation. And frankly, a lot of these new people don't care. They're not as involved as the old timers in New Hampshire used to be. I talked to a guy yesterday who basically said, I love the guy. I'll vote for them. I'll be there first thing in the morning. But no, I can't volunteer, and I feel guilty about that. But I just have too many other things to do. And I heard that over and over again. So I think that to a certain extent, there's a lack of the discourse has turned people off and sort of said, you know what, I got better things to do.
Okay, I'll tell you one of the things that interests me is that a candidate in the United Kingdom who was a Mormon would not get very far.
Yeah.
So maybe, that must be a good thing that you can all be proud of, that that aspect of Mr. Romney's background hasn't really been an issue, or perhaps it has. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think it's more of an issue on the right than on the left. The liberals they're liberal. They're open to the religion. They know it's not like he's going to come in and everybody has to have 6 wives, on inauguration day. But no, I don't think it's the case at all. I think we're just fine and dandy with religion anymore. It just doesn't work like that. Anybody else?
No one else bothered. See, that's interesting.
Well, I think the reason that it's not a big issue right now is because there was so much about religion in the last campaign. People and in the primaries, and that drum has been beaten. It's done.
And you know what? I
think
you
just can't go with it.
I think if Governor Romney loses and in 2016 the Republicans are going to put up a different Mormon who has an excellent chance of winning, which is John Huntsman.
I thought you were going to say
Okay, tell me that.
I know, I'm ahead of the game. I mean, President Obama sent him to China for 3 years because he didn't want him in the country campaigning. So I think that's your man for 2016 and the Republicans. Just my guess.
Jody,
Okay.
the depressing thing is on New Hampshire Public Radio, they already have candidates trying to book interviews for 2016.
Oh, I'll bet. I'm surprised they're not in Iowa yet.
Oh, yeah, we've got people campaigning 2016 already in Iowa.
Yep.
It's just never ending, and people are getting very, very tired.
Huntsman
All right,
and Hill.
well, that's probably a good note to end on. Who's going to be elected president in 2016?
Hillary Clinton.
All right, let's go. Saul, who do you reckon, 2016?
2016? Are you kidding me? I have no idea what's going to happen. Although it sure looked like Chris Christie was running at in the post Sandy thing with the president, didn't it?
What about you, Kirk? Who do you reckon, 2016?
I have no idea. I'd imagine there'd be somebody from out of the blue. I wouldn't be surprised if we have our first woman president at the 2016, or maybe even the first Latino president. At the same time, it would be great to see somebody like Cory Booker run, at least, just to give everybody another perspective of somebody who's demonstrated great leadership.
Katie, who do you reckon?
Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely.
Jonathan?
I'll go out on a long, skinny limb and say Joe Biden.
Jody, who do you think?
I think that 2016, you're going to see somebody like Marco Rubio or the governor of Louisiana, Bobby Jindal. I think one of those two guys will be
Jill
up there.
Davis, what do you think? Sorry, not Jill. Jill's in Alaska. Fred, what do you think?
We don't know. We don't. Jill got frozen, literally. I think it'll be the 2016 election will be the H election. It'll be Hillary versus Huntsman, and I see a Huntsman victory.
Okay.
But very close.
Well, I'll tell you, the most popular woman in the world at the moment is Michelle Obama, so maybe.
Yeah,
maybe,
you never know.
That's true.
Thank you all very much indeed for joining the Hangout. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Adam.
I think there'll be smoke coming out of this machine if we carry on any longer. And also, thank you very much for your films. They've attracted a lot of attention amongst our viewers, so thank you for those too. Thanks.
Take care, everybody.
Good.